Welcome to Love and Speak the Truth, a podcast with Sister B and friends. It might get messy, sacred to secular. Don't judge. All voices will be heard here. So listen up. We're going to explore the human experience through the lens of wisdom sharing and faith, with a worldview that might shock you, move you, even downright inspire you. Today, we are privileged to be talking to our own Sister Lorraine Crawford, IBVM. She starts our podcast for us. One of my own peeps, if you will. Lorraine comes to us today excited and terrified. She says, I want to do my best for your listeners. Well, for the more than 43 years that I've known Lorraine, she has never let me down. For instance, during Holy Week, she startled and amazed us with her portrayal of the arrogant thief crucified with Jesus. We were bringing some drama and contemplation to the proclamation of the Passion. At 92 years old, this chick brings it on. Lorraine embraces people with her beautiful inclusion, her welcome and understanding of difference and diversity. She believes in the goodness of people and truly meets people where they are in their own journey. You can say she doesn't judge. She really doesn't. She imagines the best in every situation. She lives in hope. She is a woman of great magnanimity. She is love speaking truth. So, Sister Lorraine, it is so good to have you here on the show, my favorite IBVM sister in all the world. I just want you to know that it is a great, great pleasure to have you on the program. You were so willing, so dynamic, and I know we're going to have a good time today.
Hope so.
Let us begin, huh?
I hope so.
Well, tell the audience, the people out there, your waiting public, tell us something about yourself.
About myself. Oh, gosh. Well, I've been a sister of the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary for 74 years. That's something, 74 years.
Praise the Lord.
I'll tell you one thing. The last thing in the world I ever wanted to be was a sister. And in high school, I'll give you a little background. In high school, I had this beautiful young English sister. She taught me English, and during English class, when she was trying to teach me, I remember looking at her and saying, "If she could do it, maybe I could do it." And I kept looking at her. And when I entered the convent at 18, I didn't understand this, but I really believed that it was a call. And I have never doubted that the life of a sister was right for me. I've never doubted it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you just a little bit about my background. My dad, he was a Chicago policeman.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 18 and in the convent, he wrote me a letter. He hardly ever even talked to me. I know he loved me, but he hardly talked to me. Mm-hmm. And he wrote me a letter and he said, "Please come home, Harriet." That was my baptism name. He said, "Please come home." He said, "Everyone is crying. If you come home, I will send you to college, even if I have to borrow the money. Love, Dad."
How beautiful.
That is so much part of my heart. I still have that letter too.
Yes. How old are you? Tell your audience, how old are you?
I'm 92.
Oh my, what a great 92. What
92.
kinds of things have you seen changes in the world over those 92 years? Maybe you can't account for them for the first 10 years, but what kinds of big changes have you seen in the world in the last 90 years?
Mostly changes in the way people respect other people and the way people respect the earth. those are changes that are different now than they were many years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The emphasis now on respecting people is for me, it's far greater and far more important than it was many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the respect that people have for one another is up and down every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people understand how important it is to respect people. Basically, they understand that.
And with regard to the earth, do you think people are more respectful for the earth now because we see how much we have really taken that word dominion over it and made ourselves people who have just used up the resources, who have uh, not given it the due respect, the earth, the planet, the whole, all of the environment? Is that something that you
Well,
see as different?
I myself certainly am much more respectful of the earth and environment. And because I taught science for a great deal of my life, uh, I have become very aware of the importance of the respect for the earth. But um, I live in a community of women, primarily of women, who are very aware of respect for the earth in all forms, in all
Mhm,
forms. And
mhm,
so it's all around me, but I certainly, I cringe when I see people disrespectful in any way of,
mhm,
of creation.
mhm. And that idea of being disrespectful, I think in the earlier years of your life, you saw a lot more shared respect for each other as human beings. Maybe things were not as great for everyone. Uh, there was lots of changes and legislation and things like that that allowed people to see our diversity as a good thing. But nowadays, I think that people have gone to a place where respect for each other, kindness, compassion, and what the Pope talks about, mercy, loving each other, really in a very practical way. We're seeing it coming back to life, and at some points, and then we also see ourselves falling backwards, with all the violence. Maybe you can resonate with that a little bit.
Um, well, I didn't want to touch on this, but the whole political situation is ravishing, and it it disturbs me personally. And I live with a community of people who are obviously dedicated to Christian principles, and the whole political situation in the United States is is uppermost in our minds. And sometimes I feel terribly helpless, and especially today when there's going to be a lot of decisions made in regard to our government and our government leaders. Um, I live with this, but I am forever aware I have to be a person of hope. And
Hmm.
even in the midst of the darkness, and it's very dark politically in the United States today, and that concerns me. And yet I am surrounded by people who are people of hope,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that sure helps.
Yes, that really does. That helps a lot. We can go back now a little bit as we go into our conversation. And I want you to talk a little bit about Mary Ward's time. She was living in a very difficult time. She was living in a very difficult religious atmosphere. She was living in a time where women were not as recognized as we experience now. She was living in a difficult time. You're a real Mary Ward woman, Lorraine, Sister Lorraine, with your ability to move across all kinds of ranges of understanding. What does it mean to be a Mary Ward woman today? What can you tell us about this Mary Ward that maybe the public may not know about?
That's a good question, and I should think about that a little bit more. But to me, to be a married ward woman is to be a woman of faith, of deep faith, no matter what happens. And that right now the situation in the United States where I live is very bleak. And I don't know if I could compare it to the situation of the times of Mary Ward, but she could be a model for me. She could be a model that no matter what is around her, she believed in herself and she believed in truth and justice, and those are real bedrock convictions that helped me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always think about Mary Ward. I think about, I guess I think more about modern women, but I think about, and Mary Ward is definitely part of my fiber.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely is a woman who trusted in the midst of overwhelming difficulties.
Mm-hmm. And the overwhelming difficulty, what I know of her through the formation and through all the stories and the lived experience of women in the Institute older than I, what I know of her was she held on, as you said, to that faith. That faith did not waver at all. In fact, she did some things that were unheard of in her day, crossing the Alps, going to visit popes, and stating her case. Imagine if we did that kind
Yeah.
of thing today. What do you think you could say to younger people about this woman who was there? There was a recent book that labels her the first woman of feminism. The first
Oh,
woman of feminism. Would you categorize her that way? I sure would. Um, but
that,
younger people
I never
today,
thought of that.
no.
Because in the history of the Institute, we never even used the word feminism, but why can't we use it now? Um, yeah, she is a woman of Christian feminism.
Mhm,
She was proud of being a woman,
mhm.
and she
Yeah.
was strong.
What would you say to young women today when you look at uh, vowed religious and the so many young people not making lifelong commitments? What would you say to young people today as they look at religion, at religious, at spirituality?
Um, if I were talking to young women, and by young women, would mean people about 17, 18 and older, I want them to be women of service. And if you're women of service, you're not thinking about yourself.
Mhm,
And so that's the life of a Christian.
mhm,
I want them to be women of joy. And it's hard to be women of joy, but joy has definitely a connection with hope. But hope means keep on going with what you believe in.
mhm, mhm. That's connected to faith, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
It's all
Uh-huh.
connected. It's all somehow connected to who we are, essentially, in our being, in our soul, all those connections being made. Well, at 92 years old,
Mhm.
there's a way where people expect you to have a certain level of wisdom,
Mhm.
certain level of compassion. Um, what do you think that means as you live your life today?
I never think of myself as a wisdom woman, but I want to be a wisdom woman. A wisdom woman, I would think, strives to love people no matter who or what they are.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that comes out of Christian roots, but it comes out of human roots.
Hmm.
To be a Christian humanist
Mm.
means to love people no matter who or what they are. And that's the gospel message.
Yes, yes. A Christian humanist.
Mhm.
Christian humanist. Say more about that, will you?
I guess the only way to live is the way I'm living. So I definitely am rooted in Christian belief. I can't get away from it
Hmm.
because I know no other.
Hmm.
I've studied other faiths and wisdoms, but I'm stuck with Christianity. I'm rooted in Christianity. And it simply seems to me Christianity says love one another and respect people.
Mm-hmm.
And the political situation in the United States right now is ravaging me and all my friends,
Mm-hmm.
all my friends, and that's very much part of my life now. And I'm walking in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking through suffering because I'm not suffering as much as other people throughout this, but it's a very bleak situation in which to live. And
Mm-hmm.
yet I'm rooted in quiet hope.
I'm sure you pray about it,
I
about this
pray
hope.
about it.
You
Mhm.
pray about it, yeah?
Yeah. Uh, I think about it. I don't talk to other people about it that much.
Does something hold you back from talking about it?
Um,
The political situation.
the opportunity. I can talk one-on-one with a few people about these strong beliefs, but that's okay for me.
Mm-hmm.
That nourishes me. I don't need to talk to 20,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do
but
you think would
I
change?
need to talk about it.
What do you think would change some of our attitudes when we think about policies and politics and economics and the social issues going on in our world right now? What are some of the big ones that we really need to tackle, these social issues? I know you, for a good long time, you worked with migrants and immigrants, and you also worked in the Mary Ward Literacy Center.
Right,
What are
right.
some of the big issues out there that strike you as something that should be in the forefront of our thoughts?
Um, what bothers me is um, the dichotomy that exists in regard to the question of the immigrants. It's a big problem. It's a big moral question, and I don't know what to do with it. But it certainly is uh, something that I'm aware of, and I read about, and I think about it.
Mhm,
How the immigrants, no matter where they are being treated, and how important it is for me to welcome them, and the dichotomy that exists among American people with the acceptance of the new immigrants.
mhm,
I would love to visit places where the immigrants are living right now because I feel so out of it. You know, I'm in it in spirit, but in body, I'm out of it. And I would, I envy people like dear Krista that she can spend her life working with these people. But that's not for me right now.
mhm, mhm. You
But the
hit,
whole immigration problem is many headed,
yeah,
and it's not simple.
right. There's no real simple solution except the solution that is com- compassion and mercy. You know,
Hmm.
um, compassion and mercy are important is an important formula for welcoming and deciding what is to be done. And I think we live a lot in fear. We live a lot in fear of other um, people that who look differently, who act differently, who have different belief systems, and that scares us. So, in a sense, living in hope at this stage in life is one real way of dealing with things that we can't change. Eh?
Yeah, I like that. Living in hope. I I I I do live in hope, and I don't wanna be naive, but I live in hope, and I'm a reader of all the current news. I'm well aware of what's going on,
Hmm.
and amid all of that, I still have hope,
Hmm.
and I certainly have hope, uh, in our American government, and that's what's so sad and gripping is that the possibility that our American government is not going to be as whole as I want.
Hmm.
And And there's very little I can do about it other than vote.
Right.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's a real action issue, getting people to have the awareness and have the ability to discern, right? Between two things may not be two goods, but it be discerning between two things that will make a difference in the long run and not just self-oriented. Yes. Yes.
Well, living where I'm living right now, I live surrounded by people of goodness, and I feel special, but I am sad that so many people are not surrounded by people of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
No, my values are 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 shared by everyone I live with for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watch the news, I see a multitude of values in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I am so blessed.
Yes. Now, Sister Lorraine, why don't we get a little bit real and go into real time? Let's say you were invited to speak on the news with a news conference of sorts,
Mhm. Mhm.
and on that conference, the one of the people I really like on the news is Nora O'Donnell, and
Beautiful.
she's a
Mhm.
beautiful reporter. She just interviewed our dear Pope, and I think that she was so respectful but so engaging with him to get to some of the answers that people want answers to. But let's say you were in that position to be on the news to talk about the importance of voting, the importance of bringing your values to the voting booth. What would you say?
I just think it's terribly important to vote, number one. And you bring when you vote, you bring all of your goodness and your values to that voting booth, and how terribly important it is. Um, I can only say is how important it is to be a person of integrity, and that's a lifelong job. But you bring all your goodness that you have learned from family and friends, and you pour that into yourself, and that's called integrity. You bring that, and you live that.
Yes. So you had said that you wanted to share some thoughts with this podcast today, and you wrote down some things that you thought you would want to share.
Well, I'm convinced that my call, as a woman of faith, is to respond to both uh, beauty and brokenness. If somebody said to me, "What what do you want your life to be?" I would like my life to be given to beauty and working with brokenness and accepting of brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Beauty in all forms, beauty in people, beauty in nature. And then when I see the brokenness as a human being, a committed human being, I cannot just see the brokenness. I have to work to heal it in one way or the other. I want my life to be that, and I think my life is that.
That's your whole life. Your whole life's been has been about creating beauty around you. That's my
Right.
experience of you, Lorraine. My experience of you is one that looks for beauty in people, in others, around you, in
Right.
nature.
Right.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's my experience of you. So you've been living that these last 92 years.
Mhm. Yeah. My mother was very much like that too. My mother was always happy, but didn't have a real happy life, but she was always happy, which means you can be happy.
In the midst
You,
of suffering.
I think you can. In fact, I know you can.
Yes, wonderful. I'd like to wrap up on what I ask every person that's coming on this show is the show is love and speak the truth. That's a Mary Ward saying. What would you say is your one truth that you would like to leave us with?
Be aware of the broken and the wounded in my life. Be aware and try to do something about it. First of all, be a very grateful person, but let that gratitude overflow into awareness of the brokenness around you.
And do something about it.
As much as you can.
Thanks so much, Lorraine. This has been wonderful to just have your voice at this table, at this conversation with this audience. I hope and pray that you will continue to be the beautiful Lorraine, the wonderful Lorraine, the Lorraine that heals wherever she goes. Thank you so much for being here. And now for the wrap-up. You have just had a human experience from a spiritual being. We have so much to learn. So go forth to love and speak the truth. Ad majorem Dei gloriam. A couple of announcements. Don't forget to rate and follow us on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We are on Facebook at Love Speak Truth, and visit our website at www.lovespeaktruth.org. For a few credits, when all is said and done, I give thanks and credit for sponsors, producers, and contributors who made this podcast possible. Mega shout out to IBVM Region Leadership, Megan Butel, Jennifer Schmitz, Carol Benaziak, Laurenti Wright for the keyboard music, the late Sister Maria Beer IBVM for her composition of the music Women Bearing Witness. It takes a village, folks. Thanks for listening to Love Speak Truth.